Hey, welcome back, everybody. So, last episode I introduced the new build, yep, 80 model Z28. I've had this car since 2019. I look back, September of 2019 is when I bought it. So I've had it for 4 years, and it's done nothing but sit. So the only thing I really had done to it, I put a passenger side floor pan patch in it, and started the driver's side, and basically abandoned it to build the IROC. So this video, I'd like to get the other floor pan welded in, get those floors sanded down and coated. Also, I have to build a second patch that we'll have to do from scratch, but we should be able to do all that in this video. Let me show you all what we got inside. So yeah, she's a beaut. It's actually a really solid car, but had some of the basic problems that all of them had. The passenger side floor pan rots out. The reason why it rots out is the heater core goes bad and it leaks into the floor. That is a major problem with these cars, and nobody wanted to fix them because they're such a pain to get to. They also, a lot of times, the weather stripping and stuff will leak, but that is the number one reason for the passenger side. You'll almost always find them bad. And then the driver's side also had a little bit of rust issue. Who knows where that water was coming from, but nonetheless, probably the cowl area or somewhere that it's supposed to have a seal and didn't. I was noticing this yesterday. The actual cowl right here, that panel's supposed to have been welded completely shut. It's not. You can actually see inside the car or see light through that. So, you know, a little bit of seam sealer would have went a long way. So the patch I put in on this side is okay. It's got, see that big gap? Yeah, it's a big gaposaurus, but I can jump that gap. That ain't no big deal. Or at least with the MIG. I was trying to TIG weld this in originally. I don't know jack all about TIG welding. I'll be honest, I have a TIG welder, but I ain't good at it. And I've yet to put enough time in it to even figure it out. So we're just going to MIG this in and be done. And we've got a little hole right there on the other side of that bracket. And we got to flatten that floor out. But everything else is going to stay the same inside the car. It's still going to be an automatic car, so we're going to leave the hole for the shifter and all that. And it's missing one of the braces for the console, so we may have to make one. I just noticed that it's actually supposed to have one right here, I do believe. You can see where they've cut it. But we may have to put one back there. That ain't no big deal either. I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to have one right there. First thing we're going to do, though, is actually get the water out of the back floor pan on the passenger side. I don't have the plug out of it, and it's just in there. I'm just going to use some paper towels, cheap things. Throw it in there, soak it up, and get that cleaned out right quick. So when I first moved in to this house, this car had to be set outside. I didn't have a choice. And the water collected right here. Maybe I should have just pulled that body plug. Yeah, things gonna be a pain to get out of there. We'll just soak it up and throw it away. It'll be fine. At least you know it don't leak over here. That means the metal's all intact. Well, there's one of the body plugs for the floor pans. We may have to come up. Oh, here's another. So we just need to come up with two more. Good enough. That'll dry out now. First thing I'm going to do, well, neighbor's running a skill saw. Hopefully y'all can hear just fine. First thing I'm going to do is hit all that with a grinder and just clean up all that metal. And that way there's no rust or anything. We start welding that together and then we'll grind it all down when we're done. But this really shouldn't take terribly long, I don't think, since I've already done all the cutting and measuring and all that sort of stuff. And it is already tacked in there. So I'm going to get the grinder out and we'll see if we can't get this ground down a little bit and cleaned up. I got all that ground down really good. I actually hit a few places there with just a piece of regular sandpaper. It'll be fine. And when this is all done, I'll hit that with some rust reformer just to make sure we get down in all the cracks and stuff. Originally, underneath all that, I did have weld-through primer, so it had some protection before it was in the elements, but it did rust. So I think the next thing I'm going to do, I got the welder out, I'm going to plug it in, and yeah, well, let's see if we can't get that welded in. I probably have to use a cutoff wheel still. We'll have to do some a little bit of trimming, but you know, as with anything you're welding in, you just have to do it. I've had visitors and all kinds of stuff. I think we might be out of welding wire right now though, so let me see if I can check that. Let's see what it looks like. Well, let's see what we got in here. Yep, just as I suspected. No wire. Some of y'all are gonna be upset that I'm still using flux core, but eventually I'll be able to afford a bottle and we'll get some gas on this, but not yet. Let's see if I got any more wire laying around. I think I might. Let me look. Check this drawer, see if there's any in there. Ah, I think there is. Next question is it the same as what we were using? Yep, sure enough. We're in good shape. I'm going to go ahead and get this on and fed through, and we'll get back to welding. So for the guys that aren't professional welders, which is probably all of y'all are probably professional welders. This is the internet after all. I always make sure that my spool is pulling from the back side of the spool, because if it's pulling from the front side, it has a tendency to not be smooth if it'll pull it at all. And then you just run it in there, and you can just see these little one of those has got like a little knurled area, and those two wheels turn and it pushes it through. I'm going to pull that out and go ahead and see if we can't get this fed in. Alright, so I got that pulled out. You can see it's gone. I'm going to take and snip this right here so it's got a nice clean edge. You don't want any of the stuff that's got a big kink in it. That won't go through the liner, but I'm going to cut it right here with a set of side cutters. Run it in, and you just pull the trigger on the torch and it'll just feed it right through. Just make sure you don't have any kinks in that torch line when you're doing it. No big deal. Also, if you let go of it, it'll unspool and get all tangled up, just like I just did. Don't do that. You can put it back on the spool. It usually does okay, but if you get it tangled, just have to cut it free. Remember, no kinks. Well, right there's where we're running into that. I'll never, with enough time, I might be able to get all that out, but I ain't got that patience for that right now. So, just cut it, slide it through. We'll see it kind of, well, it'd be better if it was a little straighter. Just straighten it out, thumb a little. There we go. Feed her in until she catches on that drum. Then just pull the trigger, and that's how it pulls. It'll make sure it lines up in here. That part's just a guide. This is the actual sleeve up here. You got to make sure it lines up enough to go in that sleeve. Alright, we're in it. And then just hold her down and let her feed till you get her coming again. Well, you know what I mean. There we go. I ran it out a little far so I can kind of get where I want to be with it. I like to have about an inch of stick out. With flux, it doesn't matter so much. If you're using shielding gas, that shielding gas basically creates like a little bubble around your weld, and you need to be, I think it's within an inch, 3/4 of an inch, I don't know. You should seek a real welder and ask them. I am not a real welder, never claimed to be, but I'll share the information I got. So we're good there. So I'm going to shut her down, and we're going to get suited back up and get back to work. Well, I'm getting her welded in. That side went just fine. You can see I got a big gap there and a big gap there. So this one over here, I'm going to actually try to take a hammer and dolly and hammer those to where they're flatter together, which will close that gap up. But I might end up cutting me a piece to go at the top of this one. That's a big gap right there. So I just don't want to waste that much of the welding wire. So I'm gonna go ahead and beat those together there, and we'll get that welded in, and then the only thing really left will be to cut a piece there and weld that. I welded her down, got some Lincoln logs going down there. Nonetheless, we jumped that gap. It seems fine. I'll grind it all down, and if we need to touch it up, we will, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm going to cut a little triangle to go at the top of that, and we're just going to do the same thing over here. Just tip, 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 until it's completely finished, and we're done with that. Yeah, then the front will be patched on the little spot back there then. So that's the floor pan that we just welded in. You can see up there's where I cut out. That's where I cut out for the center transmission tunnel thing for the Camaro. This piece just keeps on giving, right? So I'm going to cut a little bit off right there, a little triangle, but first I'm going to hit it with a flap disc. That way we don't have to hold it with a pair of vice grips or whatever to sand it down. So I'm going to do that and just cut us a small triangle. It doesn't have to be very big, and it doesn't have to fit perfect. It just has to take up that gap. So let's get that done right quick. So there's our gap, and there's the piece we cut. So that's what I wanted. I just wanted to be able to fill in that biggest part of the gap, and then we can jump the rest of that. I'm gonna have to beat this down as we go to kind of straighten that out, but that's the next step. So I think we're good to go. I'm gonna set y'all back up. I'm gonna get back to welding. Well, she's all welded in there. That'll do. We got to grind it down. Anytime I'm grinding something that's going to get covered, because this is going to get covered, I don't just knock the top off of it. It's going to be fine. You don't get too aggressive, because if you do, sometimes you'll grind all the way through your welds. So I think next I'm going to look at this. Maybe, I don't know, it's 92 degrees out here and I'm melting down. So I may take a look at this and see if we can figure out how to patch that easily. All right, so I took a better look at this. I thought that went underneath that, but it actually looks like somebody actually knocked a hole in it with something. I thought it was gonna be rusted out, but that's actually really firm all the way around. I don't know, it's like they knocked a hole in it, and it has rusted since then, but I don't know what the point was, if they were draining maybe it had water in, I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm going to actually just cut just right along that edge over. Just make a little square, and we'll patch that. I'm going to knock this in. So I may do that right now. That needs to come down. Just like that. Back to how it ought to be. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this. And we'll take that measurement and take it over and cut it out of that floor pan piece I have over there. Let's see what we're looking at. Let's see. Must be more than 2 inches. I'm trying to figure out how to. Let's see here. Let's see how big it's got to be. 2 inches minimum. 2 1/4 probably preferable. 1 inch wide would be just fine. So let's go cut us a 2 1/4 by 1 inch patch for that, and we'll be set. Just like last time, I'm gonna hit it with the grinder first and then cut it out. Oh yeah, I can live with that. Well, that turned out just fine. I'm going to hit that and this with a grinder. You want to make sure you don't hit the welds to the point that there's nothing left. I've done that before,
and you have to go back and re-weld it. And if we have to hit some holes in this, which we might, we'll go ahead and do that too. But I'm gonna get to the grinding and we'll see if we can't get this ground down and move on. I got all the top side of this ground down. Looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. I only had to hit a couple of spots to fill in any holes I'd missed. Sometimes that happens. So then the next thing I got to grind down, but I ain't doing that today because I've had all the fun I can have. Cut these porcupines down. That's where I jump in them gaps. Sometimes you run one through. So we'll hit all this with a grinder. This side I'll dress it up a little bit. You'll never see any of that. It's so low and it's basically under the car, but we'll still dress it up with some Dynaglass or whatever and sand it down so it looks a little nicer. But anyways, I'm going to shut this garage down and I'll see you on maybe tomorrow, the day after, don't know. Well, it's been a couple of days. It's pretty nice this morning. I want to wrap some of this stuff up. We'll get this video out today. I'm risky. I went ahead and told y'all on the internet today at 4, so I'll be out of town before I know it. I did miss something when I was welding. I didn't notice it. Technically, I could probably put seam sealer in it, be okay, but I'm going to show it to you right quick, and we're going to weld it, and then we're going to move on. All right, see this crack right here? Technically, it doesn't have to be welded, but you can see the outside. I thought, you know what, let's just run a weld down right through that and kind of seal it up some. And then we'll put some seam sealer over it too. You can get away with just seam sealing that, but I'm going to weld it. It kind of bothered me that it was like that. So I'm going to hit it right quick, and we'll call the welding finished then. I am much happier with how this is. Chances are that it never caused an issue, but what I was thinking was I put my foot right there all the time, and if that squeaked, and if this, I mean, this isn't even going to be my car, but if it squeaked, it would drive me insane. So, it's fixed now. You're definitely not going to get any squeaks out of that. It's good and welded in. We'll still put some seam sealer all over all that. We got to clean all this out anyways before we coat it, and we're going to coat it before we seam seal it. That's the ticket. So you have to coat it, and then let the coating dry, and then seam seal it later. And if you want to paint over the seam sealer, that's up to you. I might. I don't even know. We'll see. I've got some Pour 15, but I'm not sure how much we have. We'll check that in a minute. But next, I'm going to go underneath and do the grinding right quick. It will not take long because there's not much of it. And then we're going to scuff this whole floor up with just a wire brush on a drill, and it shouldn't take us long. And then we'll coat as much of it, which I think we can get it all, but we'll coat as much as we can of it and get it all squared away to that point. All right, here's what we're dealing with down here. We'll get in here and grind this down real quick. I'm not looking for perfection. I just want to be able to cover it up with some Dynaglass and it look okay, which you'll never see it. It'll be fine no matter what. It's really not that much of it even shows. After taking a good look at the floor pan underneath, I'm going to have to jack this car up to get under there to grind it down. I can't get to it from the front. I thought I could, but so let's get it jacked up right quick and put some jack stands under it and get that ground down.
might have set the car on fire a little bit. I put it out with a water hose. I'm not sure if you can see that in the video. I'll check. But I got it out. I got the fan on it now. We're drying off the floor. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why when you weld, you should always be ready to put out a fire. I got it hot, so I'd missed that same seam where the rocker meets the floor on the passenger side. I was just going down through there, just welding that in. And I could feel it getting hotter. I was leaning over it, and I was like, am I on fire? Nope, just my car. So I got it put out, and we're going to let it cool down, dry out a little bit. I'm done welding, I think, again. I had to, what originally started this was I cut a small tab of metal off the bottom of the floor, and I just wanted to go in and weld that up, and I did, and it looks fine. I've got just a little bit more grinding, probably not much, probably like 10 minutes, 15 minutes more. I'm not going to do any finish work underneath the car right now. I just wanted to get it ground down so we didn't have to get it really hot and bubble off our coating later. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take a break and let it do its thing, let it dry out, make sure everything's fine, which I'm sure it is. But I'll get back to it here in just a few minutes. And if your rockers are ever on fire and you have the fender off, right there's a great spot just to spray the water right in. You can see it running out in the back there. That's the area I was welding when I caught that rocker panel on fire. But I had missed that before, whatever. It's welded now, it ain't gonna cause no problems. So the only thing I got left to grind underneath is just this back here. I think that's it. I'm not even gonna set up a camera for that. It won't take me 2 seconds. That'll be done, and then the next thing will be grind out or wire brush this floor and vacuum it good, and then let's see if we can't get it coated. I'm going to give y'all a shot of the floor pans where we welded it in. Turned out pretty good, I think. I mean, in my opinion. We'd dress it up a little bit with some fiberglass filler and sand that down and hit it with a little bit of Bondo. It'll clean up real good. And it's in a spot you really can't see it or touch it once it's all done. But let me show you. Let's get right in here on it. That side turned out pretty good. Of course, everything down here will get coated too. Like I said, with fiberglass, then a little Bondo, and we'll be good to go. I'm happy with it. The spot in the back looks just as good. Let me show you that right quick. Try to find it there. There it is. Get a good look at it there. It turned out good. We'll do the same with it. After getting underneath it, it is super solid all the way around that. Somebody's definitely knocked that hole in it. I don't know why they did it or what they did, and that might have been an accident. I don't know, but I'm glad I welded it up when I did. This is actually a really solid car for its age and how long, who knows how long it was off the road and stuff. So I'm gonna set her down and we'll go ahead and wire brush this floor, get it clean and coated. Well, I got her all chucked up. I'm gonna get in there and clean all this right quick, and then we'll get it vacuumed out.
I am burning up. I am melting down. But we found a couple more spots when I cleaned all that out. Most of the floor cleaned up pretty good, vacuumed out nice. But I thought we might find a little more rust, and we did. It's not a lot, so it shouldn't take long to fix. But all right, so this side was pretty good back here where the seat goes, but right there. So we don't need a big patch, just something like that-ish. And there's a little bit right there too. So I'm gonna hit that with a grinder and see what we open up, or we might just go ahead and just make a patch. I think it'll be fine. Honestly, it's in really good shape around it. We may hit those with a drill. I don't know. I've done that before. You can hit it with a drill and get it back to good metal and then just weld those spots in. We may just do that and be done. It's really pretty good shape. And there's one more spot right there. That one's going to be tough to see. See them there? So, I don't know. It's not much. Oh, I keep looking and I keep finding more. There's some, but they're all just little holes. It's like really good metal around it. Maybe we'll just hit it with the, do the drill method. Hit it with the drill and weld those holes up. And let's go look at the other side. It's no worse. And this side, this part of the floor pan actually looks excellent. I checked it out really good. It looks really, really good. But back here, this is definitely going to get the old drill bit treatment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little holes. They ain't very big, so we just run a drill bit through those to good clean material and weld them up. Actually, I'm going to do that to all this. I think that'll be the fastest and easiest way to fix the issues. There's no point in cutting all that out. Got us a drill, 1/4-inch drill bit. I'm going to go back there and hit all the spots that need to be welded up, and yeah, it'll be fine. It's the metal around those holes actually looks really good. I don't know what happens to them, but they just catch water and sits there. It's underneath that foam seat. I'm sure that foam seat just keeps the moisture just right there on it the whole time. So let me get this dry quick, and we'll get this side welded in, and we'll go to the other side and see if we can't get it all fixed without having to cut any patches. Listen, I'm not telling you this is the right way to fix this floor pan, or any sheet metal for that matter. A lot of sheet metal work really and truly is fixed the way the person that's fixing it wants to fix it, and that's just how it is. If you've got just surface rust on your pan, you want to cut it out and put it in a one-piece floor pan, by all means, do it. Or if you're like me and you're just trying to patch one together, and that's what this car is, it's just, we're just patching it back together. We're getting it good enough to be back on the road and last another 40 years. It's fine. These sheet metal floors, they're known for rusting, and what we've done to it so far is already better than what most people would have done. So I'm going to go ahead and just weld all these in. It'll be fine. Don't get excited about it. Just fix the problem you got in front of you and move to the next problem. That's all you can do. Especially with sheet metal. Don't get excited about it. Don't get in a hurry. Just one thing at a time. Just make sure you get it all. And that way when you treat it, you kill all the rust, and it's encapsulated, and it looks good, and it'll last a long, long time. And let's face it, anybody that buys this car, more than likely is going to keep it inside. It'll be a fresh paint car. Most people put those things in a garage, and this car is going to see very little rain. Or it's going to sit outside all the time, and it ain't going to matter what we do to it. So there you go. Let's get back to work. Sorry about the rambling. Well, I kind of feel like a fool. Never even considered this. When I was under the car, you can't see those. And the reason why you can't see them is they're inside the frame rail pocket. And that, those aren't rust holes. They were, they might have, that one was right there. But the other two, when I started drilling them out, there were plenty of metal. I'm almost positive those were intentionally put there from the factory. You can see there's a spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, and that's what those are. And then I'm pretty sure all those might have been spot welds. That one might have just burnt through. So I probably didn't have to even do this side, but I got those kind of done anyways. We're going to weld them up. I'm going to grind it down a little bit and weld those up. We'll move to the other side. It'll be fine. Extra work, you know, didn't hurt us, but here we are. Let's just get it cleaned up and move forward. That side welded up pretty good. It was thin in a spot between where I drilled those holes. I had to build that up. But it is, you can't see the bottom side of that, and the top's fine, so I might hit it with a grinder just a little bit more finish, but that's it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Hopefully I can find all the spots easily. I'm going to show you a little trick I like to use when I'm looking for holes in metal. Works really good. I'll show you. So I've got this big light. I got it turned on. I'm actually going to pull it off this stand and slide it underneath the car, and you'll be able to see just the pinholes that need to be done. We'll hit them with the drill, then hit them with the grinder, and we know what we got to fix. Slide that light under. And now we can see all the holes, every one of them. There's 2 there, 1 there, a couple of there, so on and so forth. It's really not bad, and they're kind of, you know, spread out, so we can definitely fix this the same method as we did the other pan. So let's just get some holes drilled and ground down and get to fixing. I ended up with a few more spots than I thought I had. Whatever, they were all kind of spread out, so the only way to fix that in one shot would be to put in a whole pan. I definitely wasn't going to do that. If you're wondering if your pan is thick enough to do that too, here's the basics. If you hit it and it blows through and blows through and blows through and the hole gets giant, stop. You need a patch. I had probably 2 of these that probably should have had a patch, but we got them. I'm going to grind it underneath a little bit, just a little, not much. I ain't going to grind the top at all because it doesn't really have to have it. Since we're going to coat it and cover it, it'll be fine. And then we'll just move on to the coating. We should be fine. I got to go and get us a paintbrush because I was looking around and I ain't got any. So I'm going to hit this underneath right quick and we'll get going. Well, I went out to the old Big Lots. Y'all got Big Lots where you're at? It used to be an awesome store, now not so much. But anyways, closest place I thought they'd have some brushes. I just bought some, the cheapest, well, the only sponge brushes they have. Got those. Come back. It looks like it's about to rain just any minute now. Also, I vacuumed the floor out one more time. Scraped it out a little more just to get it as clean as possible. I'm using a little bit of invisible glass. I don't have any lacquer thinner here that I can think of, so I'm just going to spray it down with this and wipe it down really good, and then we're going to coat it. We'll be done for the day. She's all wiped down, looking good. I'm really pleased with how it is. So let me see if I can find that pour 15 and let's get to work. Well, it looks like the storm clouds just blew right by. So I'm going to move the caravan out into the street. And we're going to push that thing outside into the shade here and coat those floors. I don't want to coat it inside if I could help it. It smells terrible. things you should know about it is it's flat black. You think, what does that matter? It doesn't. But if you're expecting gloss and you put this on there, you'd be upset about it. So I accidentally bought this can a long time ago, and I've never used it, so this will be as good a use as any. I didn't have a traditional stir stick. I do have a it's like a rod off a support rod off the eye rock. It'll do. It'll do what we need it to do here.
Well, she's all coated and it'll dry here in a few hours. I may hit a spot or two, but I probably won't. Let's face it, it's done. Looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. All the holes are fixed in the floor. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So, well, everybody, that's it. I'm calling this a video. I'm sweaty. I'm nasty. I'm covered in Pour 15, but our floors are welded in. All that's done. It's all coated, and we're ready to move on to the next step. So I appreciate you watching. If you haven't hit the subscribe button already and you made it this far, you should hit that. I'd appreciate it. And I'll catch you on the next video.